All right, we're in segment 4 of the Mastering the Sales Funnel series. You're going to want to keep in this series to keep figuring out exactly what you can do from phase to phase in the funnel.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Shin.
All right, hey, welcome back to the Sales Funnel series, Mastering the Sales Funnel series. And we're in segment 4, which is what I want to talk about today, qualifying and nurturing the leads that you now have in your funnel. You know, these are two of the most critical stages in this whole idea of mastering your funnel. And it's where we move from, the general interest of a candidate and identifying of a candidate to truly see who's ready, who's willing, and who's able to succeed in franchising. Again, if you're the broker, or in your brand if you're the franchise development rep. So we're going to talk about how we effectively evaluate people and nurture those leads. And that's an accurate word. That's what we have to do once we get somebody's attention and once they are moving through the funnel. We need to nurture that. So we're going to talk about this. So both of you should stick around if you're the broker or you're the brand representative, the franchise brand representative. We're going to look at both roles because they're similar, but there are some differences, but they go together. They go hand in glove or hand in hand. So let's dive in and you'll see what I'm talking about. So first of all, let's talk about the lead qualification criteria. What do you want to be doing when you're qualifying the leads? One of the things I see regularly in this business, both on the broker side and on the brands side, is that we work with people that aren't qualified. And we're going to talk about what those things are, but we hang on to people that aren't qualified. And what's actually happening is it takes up your time that you could be spending on the candidates that truly are qualified and are interested and can succeed in franchise ownership. So being able to qualify people out of your process is truly critical, because you want to have the right amount of time for the good ones, for the right ones. So lead qualification is about investing time, finding those right candidates, so to speak. And there are some key priorities in this step. One is financial readiness. That seems so obvious, but does the candidate really have the necessary capital and, in a lot of cases, liquidity to invest in a franchise and be able to really ramp it up, to really get it up and running and then have a successful, sustainable business? So those early stages, being sure someone just doesn't have enough of the franchise fees, but do they have the private or the side funds, to take care of their family, or does that get rolled into the working capital that's necessary? But you want to be sure that whatever you're, as a broker, whatever you're showing someone, or even as the franchise brand rep, that you're showing this to people who can get through. And I always think of it as about 6 months. I think that's the greatest fear time, is that ramp up. How can I get my business providing my basics in my family? And I always think through it, let's talk to the candidates about their expenses. Do they know their personal expenses? Obviously, in the franchise, they're going to know the business expenses in those first 3 to 6 months, but do they know, do they have a personal budget? Do they know their own finances and what funds they need to put aside to comfortably get through those early stages of starting up their franchise? Another qualifier is really just simply is business skill sets and overall acumen. Do they have the experience that's going to transfer over into being a business owner? Can they not only operate the business, but are they going to be able to grow it to the extent that it's providing what they need, above what they need, and maybe even building that asset that ultimately could be sold at some point in time. Because few franchises really want people to bring their experience, industry experience into the business. They'd rather have people that they can train to do it the way they feel is the right way to do it. So what we're looking for, and I use the phrase all the time, transferable skills. So you want to be looking for, ultimately looking for industries where prior experience and skill sets will work well in helping them be successful in the long run in the business that they choose. You also want to be looking for alignment of values. This is something that I think's been really coming to the surface in the recent months, recent year or two. Buyers, the potential future owners of franchises, they're thinking beyond just, hey, this is a great model and I can make money at this. They're looking for something that they can connect with from a value standpoint. So the brand's mission, the brand's vision, the brand's culture has become a much more important factor in you as a consultant, as a broker, matching people and finding the right businesses for them. So now unique, very specific, unique points from the standpoint of qualifying candidates as the broker. We want to look at, I always say we want to look at 4 keys, or there's 4 questions that really need to be answered. One of them is whether someone is really committed and made the decision that they want to be a business owner. Again, this seems so obvious sometimes when I say it, but you know what? I have found myself over my years in the franchise development, in my years as a broker, I've realized that question sometimes was never answered. What I can see, what I've seen happen in my business at times, and certainly in a lot of the people that I've coached and trained along the way, is somebody seems really excited. They love this business. We connect on a personal from a personal basis, and yet they don't move forward. It's very frustrating and it's confusing. And I think it goes back to the heart of the issue. They've never made that real commitment that business ownership is what they want to do. So to me, that is a first and foremost question that's got to be answered. Is business ownership right for them? And are they committed to that? Have they made that commitment? A second thing is just franchising and suitability, so to speak, to the franchise industry, to a franchise concept or a franchise model. Do the candidates understand the benefits of having a franchise model, being part of a franchise network? Do they understand what they're getting? The structure, the operating systems, the ongoing support. I think this is particularly helpful for people coming out of let's say the Fortune 500, the corporate refugee type person, because I was one of those, so I relate to that. They're used to being able to pick up the phone and say, hey, I have an IT problem, or hey, I ran into this, or hey, I need such and such. And there's whole departments that do those things. In franchising, they get that simulated for them. Not always necessarily exactly the same, but they get that simulated. They have people they can go to when they have a question, or when they have a challenge, or when they have a problem. So that suitability to be in a franchise system and use a franchise model is really important as a second point. So business ownership, is it right for them? Is franchising the right way to do it? A third thing is that transferable skills. When are you looking, are you finding an industry is really the question. What's a good industry where all of your experience and all of your skill sets can be applied and leveraged in the business and in the industry that you're owning? And then the fourth thing is kind of narrowing options of specific brands. If you're the broker now, you've got them agreeing to being a business ownership is their commitment. Franchising is the best way for them to do that, and you're starting to look at 3 or 4 or maybe 5 industry specific, which is the right brand fit for them. Would they be really, really well suited in an emerging brand, or do they really need a more structured system and added support and so forth that a big brand and a more mature brand can offer them? What aligns with their goals and their personalities? What specific brand has the right resources that your candidate feels they need? And then again, back to that culture point. Do they fit the culture? You can be in the right industry and you may have, 5 choices of companies that fundamentally all do the same thing or very similar things. So that differentiator could be the culture of the company, could be the values. Does the company stand? Does that franchisor stand for more than just whatever the product or the service is that they're putting out there? Now, for development reps, again, and there's now a shifting of gears, but I think as a development rep, some of these things are comparable, but I think what you need to be zooming in on is that cultural fit. Does this candidate represent who you want out there representing you? Do they embody the full nature of your brand? Are they going to be an ambassador for you in the marketplace? Are they going to show your brand to the maximum degree that they could or they should? So how do they fit into that network culturally? And then operationally, are they ready? Again, that's kind of back to the skill sets, but also, do they have the right mindset for your company, for your brand, for your image? Are they going to be a team player? Are they going to give back to or are they going to be recluse? Are they going to be kind of hermits? Are they only going to be focused on themselves? Whatever you're looking for from an operational standpoint, is this person a fit? Is this person ready to be part of your brand? So again, the brokers are taking a bigger kind of a 30,000 foot view, but you as the brand development rep has got to get really, really deep into the weeds and much, much more specific. All right, so let's move to the second segment of what I wanted to talk about today. I talked about qualifying the leads now, and now we want to talk about, we've got them in the funnel. They're moving along. They're doing what you want them to do. So how do we nurture those relationships? How do we nurture those leads? So as we're moving down in the funnel, you want to ensure that they're engaged. You want to ensure that they're confident in your process. You want to assure that they can make a decision in a reasonably fair amount of time. And you don't want to rush them, but you also don't want people that are indecisive. So let's look again now as brokers separate, and then we'll look at the development reps. So as a broker now at this stage of the funnel, you want to be a key contact point for them. I often talk about franchise development from brokers to brands is not the passing of a baton and then you slow down and stop and you're done with the race. As a consultant, you want to be fully engaged from start to finish, from A to Z. So it's important that you position this correctly with your candidates, that once you get to this stage, you're almost even more so going to work for them once you found the right brand, because now you're a critical resource for them making a timely but also a really, really educated decision. I almost think sometimes, I mean, there's certainly value in that whole matching process and qualifying somebody and getting them into the right brand or to the right brand. But I sometimes even think our value as a broker is even greater down the road while they're talking to the brands. So you want to make sure you position these things with your candidates. You want to be sure you have regular contact and calls with them. I have often taught my people in my coaching groups or my trainings. I say eliminate the phrase check-in call, because there's not a lot of value to the candidate. And when you have too many general check-in calls, that's when the candidates often start feeling like, oh, the broker's value has ended, and I'm now not going to talk to them anymore. I'm gonna ghost them or not respond to them. I almost think our value as consultants increases now that they're with the brands. So things like review of an FDD when they're going to get the FDD. Let them know what that FDD is. Be sure that doesn't overwhelm them and increase their fear levels. You also want to be preparing them to go to validation calls. A very, very important piece. But if they don't know the right questions to ask, they're only going to get half the benefit out of their calls. So you want to educate them as to what kinds of questions to ask on top of other interests they may specifically have. You also want to prepare them for discovery days. Discovery days vary tremendously from brand to brand. I know some brands that they hand somebody a contract and they ask for the decision. You know, they feel everything's been done to that point and they want a decision and a signature on the spot. There's other brands that, you know, that the discovery day comes a little bit earlier. And so there might be some final cleanup or validation calls that still have to be made. But at the end of the day, again, you as the consultant, you as the broker must properly prepare your candidates. So the positioning that you have a process, even after you pass it off to the brand, you have a process and you're an incredible resource. There's going to be things down across the whole board of like attorneys. You want to be sure they go to a franchise attorney, like lending sources. You want to be sure they go to places where they are franchise friendly. All of these things are the value as the consultant that you bring. So you've got to position them and frame it up in a way that the ongoing communication with them is not awkward or forced. They're expecting it. In fact, they want it. Another feature that the broker offers is what I would just call a project manager. Now, no, you're not an actual project manager, but I'm going to tell you 90% of your candidates have never done anything like this before. So consequently, they need help. They don't know what order things should be put together. They don't know how much time it should classically take them to do certain functions in the process. So knowing what steps to take, keeping them on pace, balancing with you know, do they have some other major life event coming up here that's gonna kind of stretch out their time that they put into doing this. You need to help them make an educated decision in a timely fashion. So there's a component of being a project manager with your candidates. You also want to project that you are neutral and that you're giving them guidance that is, you know, you're Switzerland in this. Yes, when a placement is made, let's be real. When a placement is made, you get a commission, but you want to be sure that you're able to share the pros and the cons of one brand versus another, one type of industry business versus another. And you want them to feel like they can come to you. There'll be many times where they will tell you, the neutral party, and seek your neutral guidance that they would not share with the brand. And so very important as a consultant that you are the neutral component in this process for them. And again, as you're nurturing them, I said this a little bit earlier, but as you're nurturing them and you're communicating regularly with them, you need to have those resources. You need to project yourself. Don't worry about funding it. I've got funding partners. Don't worry about finding the right kind of an attorney or a franchise attorney. I've got those recommendations and referrals for you. So you want to create that resource aura or persona, or you want to project that you are the one with the resources that's going to help them from start to finish, not just finding the brands, but actually getting them, helping them make a great decision and actually helping them get started. Now, for the development reps, this nurturing of the lead, you've got to personalize your touch points. You want to build rapport. You're certainly going to have one-on-one calls. You're going to be fielding the brand specific questions above and beyond what the broker could do. And you've got to have your resources tailored to what you want to project. So video is huge. It's been huge for years. I don't see that going away, but there could be videos you want them to watch at certain times. There could be other things you want them to read, beyond watching or going on and reviewing your website. So you've got to be sure your things are tailored and personalized to your brand. You also want them to get immersed. You want them to feel immersed, especially after the pandemic. There's a lot of things going on virtually these days. So you want to have events. You want to have milestones. You want to have opportunities for them to meet with you, or maybe meet other parties, other components of the teams that they will ultimately be supported by. One of the private brands that we worked with for a couple of years, they had a really cool process where they actually got to talk one-on-one with each one of the team members of the major, 3 components of operating their franchise. And they got to talk with the people that they would ultimately be supported by should they make the purchase decision, the placement decision. So that's really, really cool. And you want a lot of these, this brand immersion and these events and meet and greets, or whatever you want to call them. You want to project your culture. You want people to feel, to be sure they feel like they could be part of this network. So just want to wrap up. Just let me close things up while we're here again today. I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're getting great value from this series. But just kind of pulling it all together from the standpoint of qualifying leads and lead nurturing. There's a balance here. There's a role for the broker. There's a role for you as the franchise development specific reps. By working together, you not only identify the right candidates, but you ensure that they feel comfortable in the processes, they feel educated and informed, and that they're always ready to take the next step. That's ultimately through this part of the sales funnel. You want them ultimately always to be confident about and excited about going to the next step. So the ultimate goal, it's to make a placement. If you're the franchise development rep, it's to sell a franchise. But you need to create a partnership with the brokers and a relationship with the candidates that everybody's excited. Everybody ultimately will thrive in the long run. If you qualify thoughtfully and you nurture intentionally, you're really laying the foundation of working with the ideal candidates and getting the ideal candidates that know what it's going to take to be successful in your brand and will open and run and start and build their business in a sustainable, mutually successful capacity. So thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep watching for the rest of the series on mastering the sales funnel.